Thor is here.
Thor is here.
You gave that to me, but you shouldn't have. You gave it to me. What is your beautiful fiance's name?
Leah.
Leah, thank you for giving us that. Thor is here. He is our expert in all things legal. A question that has, I think, preoccupied humans in modern civilization is, what makes art art? What makes it valuable? This year, that question has been flipped on its head with the advent of non-fungible tokens. I hope I'm saying that right. In the digital art world, the latest craze in the crypto and digital asset world may have you scratching your head like us, but we're breaking it all down this morning. We're calling once again upon the legal guidance of our friend and expert in law, Thor, the Director of Legalese.co.za. His real name is Eitan Stern, and he's going to answer the question, I want to create my own unique digital asset. So now what?
So now what?
This is an interesting one.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. There are actually artists in South Africa playing in this space and doing quite well in this space.
Really?
It's very interesting because for me, it still boggles my mind because I can't really grasp the concept.
Yes.
But let's start with unpacking what is non-fungible tokens.
It's got nothing to do with fungi.
It's got nothing to do with fungi. So if you're finding it complex, that's fine. It is complex. What does fungible mean? Fungible means it can be replaced by something of the exact same. So money is fungible. So if I give you a 10 Rand note, you can give me a 10 Rand note, and they're exactly the same thing. That's fungible. Non-fungible tokens are where something is unique and it cannot be replaced for the same thing or of another. So what we start talking about with non-fungible tokens is these unique tokens that you can verify are unique, and as we'll start to understand why being able to verify it is interesting.
So why then, added to that, do NFTs work so well in the blockchain technology process? Why has there been this upswing in our utilizing them as a crypto?
Sure. So, I mean, the reason there's been an upswing is because it's just a trend at the moment. So it's just become kind of popular.
So one trader did it, and now it's like, cool.
Well, the first guy to do it sold this piece for $69 million. So there's been a big craze about it. Why does it work so well? What is the blockchain? The blockchain is this digital ledger that's split onto millions of different computers. And so once you put information on that, you've got the little bits of information on everyone's computer. So it makes sure that it can't be hacked and the information is secure, because it's, if you want to change it, you're going to need to change the little bits on everyone's computer. What you start to do with NFTs is you create these unique rules for assets, digital assets like art or music or anything digital. And you can suddenly understand which is the unique piece of art because it's on that blockchain. The unique character is spread over lots of people's computers. I'm looking at you and I'm realizing this is not quite...
No, but I'm just thinking this is great for artists.
Totally. Well, let's use an example, right?
Yeah.
You've got a photo. You take a photo and you own that photo and you're very proud of it and you put it on the internet and then someone takes your photo and puts it on their website. And you think, hold on a second, that's not fair at all. I took that photo.
It's just not cricket.
It's just not cricket. I want to be paid for that. Right now, it's very hard to verify. Well, it's not very hard. It's basically impossible to verify that you took a photo. Once you can embed some code into the architecture of that photo, that you are the person that owns it, and every time it changes hands or it's used, you're going to get paid in this digital cryptocurrency that's built into that asset. You can suddenly force that every time that photo is used that you're going to get paid.
So how do you get started on something like that? I'm trying to think now of,
I'm just seeing a mother going, get off your phone, and son saying, Mom, I'm creating an asset.
So there are platforms to create them, right? You can go and code them yourselves, but there's platforms that you can go and you can put your art onto and they can create a digital token with it. And really the possibilities are endless with it. It could rechange the way that we look at IP online, because suddenly, if an artist sells a painting or an item, every time someone sells it after that, that artist is never going to earn again. It's not theirs.
Yeah.
But imagine that every time it's sold, that artist is going to earn. And that's what we call smart contracts, where built into the transaction are rules that, for the transaction to go through, have to be obeyed. It's quite far out.
We're looking at a beautiful piece on screen right now.
That is very beautiful.
It's cool, man. I'll put it on my piece, but can I afford it? Probably not, for 6.9 million or something.
Yeah.
69 million.
That's what went for
69 million.
69 million.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, all art is, all value is kind of just perceived.
It's perceived,
You might look at a Picasso and think it doesn't look very nice, but it's worth, hundreds of millions of rands, whereas you could take a beautiful painting that a local artist paints and might be worth very little. So value is perceived, and this is just another way for us to really look at perceived value.
I absolutely love this. It is so interesting, and I just can't get away from how positive a move this is going to be for those artists, for those content creators, for photographers out there, for their work to be valued in this way. But I'm dying to find out a bit more about the cryptocurrency side of why this has become so popular, why people are focused on fine art right now. And we're going to continue our discussion with Thor in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. This is Expresso on S3, and we are back and continuing our discussion with lawyer and director at legalese.co.za, Eitan Stern, aka Thor himself, and he breaks down the legal ins and outs of the use of the popularity of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, in the sale of digital assets. Now, Eitan, this is a topic I feel like there are so many questions, and even though earlier you did touch on it lightly, let's just quickly recap. What makes digital art so lucrative in the NFT space?
Sure. So what makes it so lucrative is the fact that people want it. It's no different to what makes gold lucrative or diamonds. These are just things, gold. We could have looked at granite and decided that would have been valuable, but we decided on gold. These are just big beliefs that people have, and people are willing to say, listen, I'm willing to pay a certain amount of money for this. The more people that are willing to say that, the higher the price goes. Why do people want these things? Well, your guess is as good as mine. It could be a status thing. It could be that it's a trend, or a lot of people see potential future value in NFTs. And people invest in weird things all the time. And a lot of people are hedging their bets, trying to buy these things now because they may be valuable in the future. But who knows?
Who knows? Because we don't know what the future is going to hold.
For sure. For instance, the other day, Ra was telling me about, the Pokemon balls that we used to have. Those are going crazy now on the digital space. Do you think this is the way going forward? Is people going to start looking at collecting and trading in this way?
Look, I think that, as you say, it's impossible to predict the future, and I certainly, am not going to try. I don't know what's going to be valuable in the future, and anyone who does tell you that they know what's going to be valuable in the future is lying. No one knows. And so, do I think that cryptocurrencies and NFTs are here to stay? 100%. I think it's a really cool medium. It builds trust in a system where there's a lack of trust, because suddenly if you've got rules built into the architecture of your economy, so these smart contracts where we have a deal and you can't change the terms because it's built into it. So I give you my art, you pay me. I now need to trust that you're going to pay me. With the NFTs, it's really built in. That's very, very cool. I think that's here to stay. But whether, the first tweet that was ever made which was sold for millions, if that's going to continue to be worth millions, I am not one to say, but
that just boggles my mind. So now, if you bought Jack Dorsey's first tweet for however many millions, what can you do with it?
Well, you can own it. Then
you can own it.
You can own it, and you could resell it. So right now, think about a tweet. It's something that's copied 1 million times on 1 million different places, and you don't know, there is no concept of owning the original one, but suddenly there is. Suddenly you can prove that you own it because it's built into the architecture of that tweet. It's kind of nonsensical with the tweet, but it highlights a really, really interesting thing. Take a song as an example. You put a song out there onto the internet, everyone copies it 1 million places. What if you could prove that's your song?
Okay.
And what if every time it gets copied, you get paid? Suddenly it becomes quite cool. So, stuff like selling the first tweet, people would buy it because it might be valuable, it might not be, and some people have a lot of money to waste. But it highlights a very cool industry. So, we don't need to look at the nonsensical examples. It's like, an example of the whole industry. There's some real interesting use cases in it.
For sure. I want to meet Jack first because obviously he's a millionaire now. You made that first tweet. But how do I create my own? If I want to be the first on the forefront of this, how do I do that?
So there are platforms to go and do it. So if you're very smart and you know how to code, you could do it yourself, but there are platforms
Ron Hines.
to go. There are platforms to go and create them. We've got a couple of clients, South African local clients, that are doing really, really well in this space and doing big international NFTs on some really big platforms. So, you know, it really is as simple as going onto one of the platforms and they create the template for you.
Okay, I know we've still got some time, so I just wanted to know, so someone bought the first ever tweet.
Yes.
What are some of the big ticket items that's been sold digitally?
Okay, so lots of artwork, tweets. I read a brilliant article by a New York Times journalist that sold one of his articles. He also made millions of dollars. It all went to charity. He did it as a kind of for the article, but someone can now prove that they own a piece of writing online. So that's been another cool one. Obviously, the first tweet's been a big example. There's been kind of odds and ends, and obviously a lot of digital art. So, you know, like digital art, which is art that exists on a computer, not printed out.
And I believe there's also a YouTube video that was also sold for about $1 million as well.
You can literally sell anything which is digital can now be sold as an NFT. And remember, the idea of this is to highlight a smart contract. So, you know, anything which exists online can have built-in rules into it. And that's a smart contract.
I just want to know who chooses like what the value is, because I mean something as a tweet could be 100 Rand.
Who chose the value of that iPad on your lap? So if Apple put out the iPad and say this is going to cost $1,000, you know, 100,000 Rands, no one's going to buy it. So that's not the value. So Apple needs to decide on a value for something, and us as consumers need to go, cool, I'm willing to pay that, and that's value. Value is always going to be a made-up concept. This is just taking this thing that we all know to exist in the everyday world around us. We decide on the value of things, and it is putting it into a digital realm, which is quite interesting.
It is very interesting. Well, Eitan Stern, thank you for joining us this
Such a
morning.
pleasure.
Exploding our minds with all things digital, especially when it comes to NFTs. So hopefully you learned something new today. But if there's one thing we can always learn from, that is our fashion editor, Knox Mafu, who's always here with the best in fashion.